Yo, what's up? And welcome to episode 129 of Throwback Hoops. My name is Rob Clayton, and joining me is none other than Woody V.
Hey, Robbie. Really tough morning to get out of bed today, but it's good to be back.
Been a tough day, hasn't it, safe to say. So, yes. Yeah, Wednesday the 7th of August, we're doing this around 5 p.m. Sydney time. So, yeah, it's been a long day. I think we're both, probably pretty tired after the game last night. And plenty of emotion. I think I've gone through all the different sort of, stages of grief, I think, today as it is. So, even to the point that I was even deciding what jersey I'll wear up until about an hour ago. Normally I've got that decided a week in advance, but I decided to rock a Boomers one today. But look, before we get into the jerseys, just a reminder where to find us. Please make sure you like, rate and subscribe to the videos on YouTube. And of course, our audios are available where all good podcasts are found. So, Woods, I know we've got a bit of an Aussie theme today, so why don't you start us off with that nice jersey you're wearing there?
Sure.
Woods is stand up rocking the number 34, Jock Landale rookie jersey.
Yeah.
Nice looking jersey, that one.
It is a nice jersey. And I know I've worn it before, Robbie, but I just thought let's wear it today because it was a tough campaign for the Boomers. And I know we're going to get into it a bit later. And one of the guys that left with his stock rising is Jock Landale, who really performed well during this tournament. My question to you is, with a lot of the guys leaving now, Paddy, Joe Ingles, Delhi, we might not see them again. Is this Jock Landale's team going forward? Is he that guy who's going to be that leader?
Possibly. I mean, I'd say probably likely it's going to be Giddy's team. But
sure.
Look, I mean, I was kind of thinking ahead for that starting five for 2028, and it's definitely Landale, Dyson Daniels, and Giddy. They're probably the three that you can say would be a shoe-in. Anyone else, I've got no idea at this stage. But
maybe an Exum?
Maybe. Possibly. I mean, he was certainly good this Olympics. Yeah. But, Landale, you didn't have a great quarterfinal game, did he? You're obviously going against the Joker there. He fouled out in regulation and that. But, yeah, he played a great tournament, didn't he?
Yeah, and look, when I say leader, not his team, but he'll be one of the leaders amongst that group at the next Olympic Games, right?
Yeah. How do you expect his season to go as well? Because he's obviously bounced around a little bit now. How are you expecting his season?
Look, that's what I was going to ask you about. A lot of eyes are on the Olympics, right? Scouts, NBA teams have got visibility of what's going on there. Now, he's stuck in a situation now at Houston with Sengun, and then Adams is coming back from injury. So he's almost that third string center on that team. So you think maybe a trade could be a possibility? Because his value, on the open market, his value has never been higher, right?
I think we were probably both disappointed he couldn't stay in Phoenix. I think that was going to be a really good spot for him there. He obviously had some playoff success there and looked really settled in that role in Phoenix. But obviously he ended up, going to Houston. I think was he traded to Atlanta? Am I dreaming that? And then
very briefly.
Something like that happened.
That was before Phoenix.
Oh, that was before that. But look, you're right. Houston's one of those teams. Although they're not like a championship contender, they've got a really loaded, deep team with lots of big guys there. So I hope he gets a go this year. But you're right. Maybe it could be a trade or something like that if he's not sort of getting those minutes he deserves.
Like it's a bit of a surplus of their needs to have a third center on that lineup, right? Unless somebody gets injured, you don't see a situation where Landale gets to play. And last year, he was battling injuries for most of the season. But towards the end of the season, when Sengun went down, he got a chance to play extended minutes for that Rockets team. And he showed the coaching staff what he could do, right?
Absolutely. Like we were just talking before we started recording, he's still only sort of, late 20s or whatever. So he's still got a lot of time ahead of him. He still feels like he's younger than that. Doesn't feel like he's been around that long. So 28, obviously, still a lot of time left. But I certainly had a good tournament. It was, I enjoyed how much it meant to him as well. You could see that the passion on him every game and how much it meant and stuff. But
I'll tell you what I like about him. He's like our big fundamental. He always makes the right basketball play, whether it be a dribble handoff, passing out of a double team, or going for the high percentage hook over his shoulder, that kind of thing, right? He's very
didn't shoot a lot of threes, did he? Woods? That's one part of his game I would have liked to have maybe seen a bit more. He hardly shot them at all.
It's regressed. Even in the NBA, you don't see him taking many 3-pointers anymore. I guess from a FIBA point of view, we don't really need him to, right? So
yeah. Yeah. Oh, nice one. No, I appreciate you wearing that. Yeah, look, as we mentioned, it's going to be a bit of a somber mood today. Like, I'm still, even now, like, I'm just like, man, just replaying all those moments from last night. So we'll certainly talk about that soon. Jersey I'm rocking today, I think I have either worn it or shown it in an early episode. Just felt like a bit of a farewell to rock this guy's jersey. So I'll stand up and show you the one I'm wearing today.
Yep, for those who can't see, Robbie's wearing the Boomers number 5 Paddy Mills jersey. And there is talk that Paddy wants to come back at 39 years old to represent Australia at another Olympic Games.
He might want to come back. I'm not sure if that'll be in the team's plans because I can really see him sort of, cleaning house. I mean, I guess just I wanted to talk sort of more on a positive point of view with Paddy.
Sure.
I think last night, probably showed the best of him and the worst of him at times. Probably if you're starting with the worst, too many turnovers and just some bad defence, honestly. There was a lot of guys that blew by him. I've said to you a few times, Woods, I don't think Paddy's a lazy defender. He wants to play defence. He just doesn't sort of have the physical capacity and perhaps, the speed's, slowing down a little bit now. So that's evident. But, man, he showed he can still be a microwave. I think he had 3 assists the whole tournament, Woods. So that was clearly his role this year was just to be on the court and get buckets. But what an absolute legend of Australian basketball. He's just finished his 5th Olympic Games now. We're not even sure where he's going to be playing next year. It still lists him as a Miami Heat player when you look at the bios there. I don't think he's going to be back from what I'm hearing there. There's a few rumours he might be ending up in Japan. So, and will we maybe see him back in the NBL? I think a lot of people have thought that may happen. But whatever happens, look, I'd love to see him maybe get one more season in the NBA, maybe be that veteran presence. I know you spoke about that offline earlier, so why don't you tell the viewers what your sort of thoughts were on that?
Look, I thought Greg Popovich is coming to the end of his tenure, right? Those two have a terrific friendship. That young San Antonio Spurs team could do with that veteran presence. So almost like a benefit year for him to farewell the game. At San Antonio could be something that the Spurs front office decide to do.
So like a farewell year, like a few of the Boomers got on this campaign. Nice. Yeah, well, hopefully...
So just, sorry to interject there.
No, go for it.
So as this campaign has come to an end, right, and we look at someone like Paddy Mills who's been part of this program for the best part of the last 2 decades, right? How are we going to remember him? If this is the last time we've seen Paddy play in a Boomers jersey, how are we going to remember him? How does his legacy live on? Yeah?
Honestly, Wood, you could argue he's our greatest ever Boomers player. I would probably always put Andrew Gaze in front of him, a little bit more longevity, but obviously he led us to that rose gold in the Japan Olympics. I'd say he goes down as an absolute great of Australian basketball. The FIBA Paddy thing is just as real as it gets there. I mean, that guy puts on the green and gold and just turns into just a different player. He has the confidence. We have the confidence in him as a country, and the players and coaching staff do. So yeah, that'd be my sort of opinion. Remembered as an absolute great, probably the top 2 players that have ever worn that Boomers jersey, I would have thought.
Well, I think 2 basketball players have ever been flag bearers for our nation at the Olympics: Paddy Mills and Andrew Gaze. So I think it's fair when you say these 2 are 2 most important representatives of the sport over the years. You're right, and it's testament to them that they were bestowed that honor, right?
Absolutely. Well said, Wood. So, all right, I guess we've got to get into it now, right? So, look, obviously it's going to be a pretty heavy Olympic show today. We've got a lot to talk about, from the Boomers' point of view, the quarterfinals, and then we'll sort of talk a little bit about the Opals at the end. By the time this episode comes out, that Opals quarterfinal game that's on tonight would have been played, so hopefully we can get some revenge on Serbia. But let's start off with the Boomers, Wood. So there's been a couple of games since we recorded last week. Maybe we'll start off with that first game against Greece. So it was the last game of the pool play. We ended up going down 77-71. So we finished that pool play with a 1-2 record and a -4 points and against, but still finished second there. So it was the pool of death. Interestingly, Woods, no teams are left from that pool, which is pretty crazy, isn't it? So it was a pool of death and every team's gone. I know it's going back a little bit now, but what were your thoughts on that loss to Greece? That was a pretty tough game, wasn't it?
It was a tough game, and that second quarter really let us down. I mean, we played 75%, a great game of basketball for 75%, right, for 3 quarters. But in that second quarter, something just went wrong. We lost 28-12, I think it was from memory, and we were just never able to get back into the game after, having that deficit to overcome. And we did our best. We played some really good basketball in the third and fourth quarter. I mean, it's a tale of two halves again. Greece, 53 points in the first half, right? And only 24 in the second half, right? So this is the thing. We've talked about it in games in tournaments like this, when you've got only a few games and one small error could cost you, you can't afford to slip up and have 5-6 minutes of bad basketball. And I'll speak on that in terms of the quarterfinal as well shortly, but that can really cost you in tournaments like this. And we were very lucky to actually even make it through to the quarterfinals despite losing to Greece and Canada.
Honestly, it came down to that double-figure win that we had against Spain in the first game. That was pretty much the only reason that got us in there. So crazy to think, like I said, that we did finish second after going 1 and 2. So yeah, look, it was a pretty disappointing game against Greece. Greece did look pretty good in that game. They finally seemed to found their 3-point shot in that game, which had been missing in their early game. So full credit to them. They ended up getting that quarterfinal spot after sneaking into that with the 1 and 2 record as well. So. Look, I mean, maybe let's talk about the quarterfinal, and then we can sort of maybe do a bit of a post-mortem on the campaign in general there. So I'm assuming most people that are watching and listening to this would have watched the game last night. It was obviously a pretty late finish, and we went down 95-90 in overtime. So, look, we're up 12 at halftime. We're up 24, I think, in the second quarter. I guess in terms, and I've done this before, with the good and the bad. So the good was Paddy getting 26. Giddy had 25, 5 and 4. And also Jack McVeigh, 13. I thought he was really big. He hit some clutch shots, in the overtime. Dante again with 12. He was really consistent throughout. Awesome. Probably the bad for me was, I mentioned Giddy there. He had 7 turnovers, which is way too many. And some of those were pretty poor turnovers as well. So that's a part of his game he's got to improve on. Paddy also had 4 turnovers, which when you sort of consider that assist to turnover ratio for the tournament, it wasn't great there. And look, it was Landale's one bad game, I thought, of the 4 they played. So only 5 points and fouled out in regulation there. So, and also Dyson Daniels would scoreless in 20 minutes.
Yeah, I saw.
And still no role for Josh Green. Did he play 1 second or
1 second? That's how much
1 second it was. So
yep.
I know it's a strange way to start with, but let's start with Josh Green. I mean, this guy was coming off an NBA Finals campaign. He's been traded from Dallas to Charlotte now. I think everyone was expecting him to have a really big role. He didn't score in the Olympics. In 4 games, did not score a point. What the hell happened there?
He just came in out of sorts, right? I think he chucked one and hit the side of the backboard in the previous game against Greece. It's also the coaching staff. I don't think Brian Goorjian filled him with confidence or put him in places to succeed. He was just standing in the corner, trying to figure out a way to get involved in the offense, right? And he was almost like Joe Ingles at the last Olympics. I thought, put him in some pick and rolls, give him some action rather than just have Joe camping out in the corner. Let's get some pin downs and things like that.
He's more than just a corner shooter, isn't he, on offense?
Yeah.
I think he deserves a bit more of a role than that. Yeah.
Of course he is. He has the ability to put the ball on the floor, attack closeouts, and get to the rim and things like that. And we've seen that at Dallas. Jason Kidd has shown faith in him, right? So I don't think it's complete. Sure, he came in slightly out of sorts in this Olympics, and towards the end he became unplayable. Yes, but it's not all on him. I think the coaching staff need to do a better job of putting him in positions to be successful.
Definitely. I think we'll talk a little bit about the coaching and some of the substitution and selections and stuff soon. But look, in terms of the game, Woods, obviously we dominated that first half. The turnovers are really bad. Some strange substitutions and some poor shooting, let's be honest, in the second half. But talk to me about this loss. How are you feeling about it? How exciting was it? I know I spent the whole fourth quarter and overtime standing up in front of the TV and screaming the other place. But what's your thoughts, now that game's done?
Look, it's very easy to say we had a bad quarter like we did against Greece, and that cost us. If you look at the third quarter against Serbia, I think we went down 25-11 was the third quarter. Just checking that now. But really, the Serbian coaching staff did a great job at halftime to change the pace of the game, right? The Australians were playing at their pace, running and gunning. Serbia changed their defensive principles, slowed down the games, were really methodical in their offensive approach. Because they slowed down their offense, it meant that there was less opportunity for Australia to run. So they made some adjustments, which were really good. So I won't blame completely the Australians on that bad quarter. The Serbians did a great job defensively, and their coaching staff did a good job to adjust at the halftime break. Where I'll say what cost us the most? We're up by 24, are we, with 5-6 minutes left? This is when you really got some momentum.
Yeah.
Put your foot on the throat of the opponent and get into that halftime break with an 18-20 lead, right? And I think it was maybe 2-3 minutes at the end of the fourth quarter where they really struggled. And you saw that 24-point lead dwindle to 12. Okay, so Serbia went into that halftime break buoyed by that little run they went on, right?
Yeah.
And that boiled over into the second half.
I think you're right about that tempo thing. I think that was clearly our motto for the actual Olympics, was to try and get out and run. I think at times we look good when we're doing that, but I think this European game, and obviously 3 of the 4 games we played were against high-quality European teams, we just didn't seem to have an answer. That half-court offense was pretty poor. I thought we looked a little bit undersized at times against some of these bigger teams. And that was part of me that was thinking last night, although I was getting annoyed with Serbia, and look, we could probably talk about that. There's some of the flopping they did. Honestly, they complained every foul call they had, but it feels like these teams have a bit of a method in doing that, because if you sort of feel like you're getting just the worst calls, eventually the refs might start thinking, oh, maybe I have missed a couple of calls, and they'll get a crucial call. But they did pee me off a little bit with that last night, and we've seen that with all the European teams. We know Spain's one of the worst for that, but do you think maybe we need to adopt maybe a little bit more of that European offensive system there and try and sort of match it with some of these teams?
100%. So look, Brad Newley mentioned this morning something that I want to speak on, right? It was 20 turnovers to 14 assists last night. Firstly, that's not an acceptable statistic.
No.
Secondly, these European teams that are very, very successful, right? They play that methodical brand of basketball. And Brad Neely was saying, you look at those box scores in Europe, you see very few turnovers,
What would you like to see, Woods? Like 2-to-1 assist to turnovers, right? At least? Yeah. So say if you're getting 20 assists, you're getting 10 turnovers like that, right?
Yeah. I mean, 20 turnovers to 14 assists. I wouldn't mind if we swapped it around. 20 assists to 14 turnovers. I'd take it, right? I know the Australians want to play this run and gun brand of basketball, right? But if they want to compete, as you mentioned, with some of these other European teams that are very methodical, get into their half-court sets, right?
Yeah.
They play with a slightly longer shot clock over there, 30 seconds, right? So it's very, very structured, the way the game is played. That's not always going to work. And when you're playing that way, you're going to turn the ball over 20 times, right? And it's going to cost you, right? So you've got to find a happy medium between finding times when running the ball is good and other times when slowing down and getting yourself, getting into a good set, and getting some action and playing half-court basketball.
Yeah.
I think the FIBA game gives for both styles of play, and teams need to be able to adjust according to situations. Yeah.
I want to ad-lib a little bit here. Didn't quite have this on the run sheet. I want to maybe go through, and we can sort of take in terms of a few comments here, what went right and what went wrong for the Boomers in this campaign. So maybe I'll start off.
In the
campaign. So in the 4 games. So, and we'll start off with the good. So I'll maybe start off with the good there. For me, it was guys like Dante Exon having that veteran leadership, coming out and probably, in terms of, he was a veteran coming out and playing so well. Jack McVeigh was another one for me that really impressed. He didn't look afraid of the moment. I know I'm a bit of a Jack McVeigh homer. I really love the guy, but he just looked awesome out there. So they were 2 real positives I'd take away from that. So I'm going to throw it to you now for a positive.
Yeah, so Jack McVeigh, definitely, I was going to say, man, he's really, really earned this opportunity. But I think Jock Landale, I mentioned it earlier in the show, right? He comes out with his star rising, right? He's shown leadership, commitment to excellence. He cares. He gives a damn, right?
Yeah.
And I think he's going to just be better from this. He's going to be better off post this Olympics, right?
Yeah. No, fair call.
Another thing that I want to really say was positive is Dyson Daniels is going to be joining our Atlanta Hawks, right? And okay, he had a bad night last night. You mentioned it, 20 minutes scoreless, right? But he must be very, very happy with the body of work he's put in this Olympic Games, right?
Yeah.
And we've seen him progress from a guy at the World Cup not so long ago that was unplayable to now a starter that can contribute in this system. So,
would you have expected him to have like the better tournament than Josh Green? Maybe going in, you might have thought it would have been level, but his star really sort of his stock really rose in that, and obviously Green's gone down a bit. But I'm totally with you with Dyson Daniels. I can really see a great future for him. I love the size. He's showing a bit of improvement with his shot, which is good to see. He makes smart decisions out there. He can guard 3 to 4 positions on the court. So I agree. I think that was definitely a good. And look, while we're talking to young guys as well, it was Josh Giddey's first Olympic campaign. So besides, I think he led the whole tournament in turnovers, if I'm not mistaken. My goodness, he was. I don't know how many times I messaged and said worst trade ever with that Caruso trade. You know my thoughts. The listeners and viewers know my thoughts. I thought it was a pretty poor trade. I'm not quite sure what OKC were doing, but some of the stuff that Giddey did in that tournament was world class. Right? We know how big he is. He's got some real offensive skills now. I love those little floaters he does. He can hit that open 3 now. So I thought he really held up well. What were your thoughts on Giddey?
think for Josh Giddey, this tournament has been terrific because he's had a really, really tough time over the last year. He's been traded from his team. He's had problems in his personal life. And the whole basketball-loving community in the world has been looking at Josh Giddey for the wrong reasons, right?
Yeah.
But they saw him at this Olympics lead this team, watch that transition happen from this is, Mills, Ingles era to this is the Josh Giddey era. And he reminded everyone in the basketball world what a great basketball player he was. And people are talking about the kind of success he's going to have with the Chicago Bulls this season. So that narrative has changed from all the negative things in Josh Giddey's life to what the future holds. And this Olympics has played a big part in that. So I'm proud of him, and he's done
good
great.
Call. I love, I talked about Landale as well, how much it meant to Giddey as well. And I love the fire he had. He was one of the first one mixing it up with opposition players. I'm liking that little aggressive streak he's got now. Really excited to see him with Chicago. Pick him in your fantasy team. I think he's going to, not you, because I'll be playing against you, but if anyone that's listening or watching, I think he's going to have a great season, especially stat-wise anyway. I think he's going to have a lot of the ball in his hand. I want to see that continual improvement with the three-point shot.
Because it's size and good yesterday, right? The stroke looked good yesterday.
100%. I think it's definitely starting to improve there. So, look, I think we're going to have probably a few negatives. If you got any more positives just before we, sort of wrap up that part of it.
Delhi. I mean, he came in and he gave his all, right? For a guy who didn't make the last team to come in and play like he did in limited minutes, I was proud of him. Yeah.
Good call. All right, let's get on to maybe what didn't go well. Let's start off before the game started, Woods. The team selection, right? I know it's been spoken about a lot. It's one of those things that, and I thought about this last night, I do think coaches probably get a bit too much credit, if they lose. Because if we would have won that game last night, it would have been the players were so good, right? The Boomers won because of the players. We lost and everyone's focusing on Gorge. And that's just the way it seems to be in professional sports, right? The Matisse Thybul thing, I think I used the word inexcusable, and I fully stand by that. Shane Hill had a really interesting article today. He actually said the public deserves to know. They deserve to know why Thybul was not selected in that team. Like most of us, we probably thought he was a starting player in the team, maybe in the third or fourth players chosen. So for him not to make it in the team, you can't help but think there's something that's happened that they're not being honest about. So I thought that was a good call by Hill saying that. So that was a big one for me. Joe Ingles on the team, it didn't make sense, right? All along, that 12th guy on the team needed to be a specialist person. So I even said to you today, even I would have preferred Rocco Sikorsky there's that 12th man over Joe Ingles. And of course, you could have had CG43, and obviously you would have liked to have had Matisse Thybul. Look at some of the teams we played against, Woods, that Thybul could have had matchups against, right? Whether it's a bigger guy like Giannis, a smaller guy like SGA, guys like Bogey last night, all those sort of, we knew our schedule going into it. So that's the thing for me that I still can't really get over. And while I'm on my little tangent there, the Nick Kay thing, come on, I don't want to shit on the guy too much. He's a former Wildcat, but what the hell, right? He played massive minutes. He started.
Played 8 minutes last night only.
Yeah, he did. It finally got reduced. But then no one seemed to play big minutes last night because there's so many subs. It was over-coached, I thought, that game. Oh. But, didn't hit a 3 in 4 games. He's supposed to be known for his defense. So I thought that was pretty poor. He just looked out of sorts there. And just the fact that he not only made the team but had such an important role is still concerning. Xavier Cooks didn't get picked because people said he can't shoot. Well, you know what? Nick Kay doesn't show that he can shoot these days anyway. So I don't know. I think we probably both agree. What are your thoughts on the whole Thybul and Nick Kay stuff?
Okay, well, Xavier Cooks, let's go back to that, right? You don't need to have 5 shooters in the FIBA basketball game. I told you Landale doesn't really need to make this. A guy like Cooks can fit into the FIBA game well, right?
Yeah.
And he would have been better off instead of Nick Kay. Obviously, Thybul ahead of an Ingles. I think we could be in the semis right now if we had those guys. Am I saying?
I could have seen someone like Xavier Cooks grabbing some crucial offensive rebounds last night and getting your team a new sort of possession on offense and resetting that shot clock. I could really see him doing that there. And just he's so athletic. He can tip balls out. He's a smart player. He can run the floor well. And I just don't get it with Nick Kay. It was obviously, I think that was just purely a Brian Goorjian thing. And I think that's why we will see some of these changes now. Goorjian won't be back. Who won't be back? Woods definitely. So definitely Kay, definitely Ingles. I mean, they're the two, right, that'll definitely not be back.
Yes, Ingles, Kay, Paddy, Delhi. I'm not bringing Magne back ever again. Like, you've got Rocco and you got others. Like, isn't Magne now a surplus to the needs? Or you think he
didn't do anything to show that he was terrible there. I do think they didn't really play Duop right. It felt like, they didn't quite sort of know what the fit was with him, sort of thing. I think he showed some signs when he came on. But yeah, I think they're probably the two definites, right? We won't see Ingles and Kay again. Paddy and Delhi, I mean, look, Delhi's saying he wants to be in 2028. I think probably both of them. Their time's gone now. But I do worry a little bit about the future. You know, there's Tyrese Proctor coming through. There's, you know, Roman Sapphire coming through. I don't know what else. Dash Daniels, maybe, you know, younger brother of Dyson. But we need to sort of develop some, you know, scoring sort of guys, you know, fast, because we've got a lot of, you know, wing players, a lot of defenders. But, you know, I do think we need to develop some. But give me some more things that went wrong while we're sort of, you know, getting the negative hat on.
The substitution patterns is something that really bothered me, right? You got to have some consistency. If you're coming on the court for 2 minutes, you're going to get subbed off on defense, subbed in on offense. It just gets too much. And almost like every time there was a stoppage in play, the substitution whistle blew. So players aren't getting into rhythm, right? Paddy was on fire. He got benched. You know, it just didn't make a lot of sense to me. So I think in the past, when Gorgian was so successful with those early 2000s Sydney Kings teams, he had a 7-man rotation. No joke. He'd play 5 guys. He'd maybe play 2-3 guys off the bench. The other guys will get DNP CDs, right? He's changed that. He even in the NBL with Illawarra, he was playing 10, 11 guys, and it doesn't make sense to me, man. Right? And
would you consider this 2 failed recent campaigns? So obviously there was the World Cup, and there's this. So you know, it's hard. Obviously, you know, getting that bronze in the 2020/21 Olympics. Then we've had 2 essentially failed campaigns. I mean, look, did we finish 5th or 6th? I was trying to work that out today. How do they class that? I think it's going to be 6, all right?
Doesn't really matter.
It doesn't, but it's, you know, it's going to go down in history. But and probably I should ask Goods. If I'm not mistaken, Brian Gordon is going to be coaching your Sydney Kings this year. Have you got any concerns about that?
Absolutely. I think the game may have passed him by a little bit, right? We've seen that now. I'm also really concerned about where his relationship with Xavier Cooks is, you know? Leaving him off this team and having to go back and coach him. Hopefully Xavier can put that aside with Brian and they can move forward. Not much more to say, right?
No, it's a tough one, isn't it? Like, you know, it would have been really exciting just to have got that win and at least had a crack at playing that US team. I mean, no one's getting close to this American team. They're really firing together well. It's one of this might be the second best ever
Third,
American team. Third after what, the Dream Team 2, you're saying? Possibly.
Actually, let me just go back to something you just mentioned. The World Cup and the Olympics has been an absolute disaster for the Boomers program.
Yeah.
Then I mean, after you said we won that bronze, right?
Yeah.
And we would have looked forward to competing for top 4 spots in the next 2 tournaments, and we haven't been even close. A 1 in 3 losses, man. Right?
Yeah. Well, this is our worst Olympics since 2012. So you think the development and the improvement in basketball in Australia and the players that have come up through the ranks since that time, it's pretty disappointing to think, you know, it's our worst, you know, placing finish since 2012. You would have thought it would start to, I guess that shows that the whole world is, you know, continuing to develop. So you can sort of look at it that side as well. So, all right, well, that's probably all we need to say on the Boomers. You know, look, we finished 1 and 3 Woods. So, you know, we possibly didn't deserve to get a semi-final there. 1 and 3. Deeply disappointing. We had so many chances to win that game, but you know, at the end of the day, we'll keep supporting him. Looking forward to that next crop of players. A quick tip on the future coach, Woods. One thing I wanted to say, your old mate Matt Nielsen, I was watching him. I don't think he spoke to any of the players. Every time you see him coaching, he doesn't speak. So I'm not sure whether he's more suited to an assistant coach role. It sort of surprised me actually watching him. Literally, you didn't speak with any of the players during any timeouts, huddles, or pre-game and that. People are saying Trevor Gleeson. Some people are saying Scott Roth. Who's your pick? If you were the Basketball Australia on the panel of selecting that coach, who's your coach?
I hate to say it, but probably Vickerman. You know,
really? Okay.
I hate to say it. You know, Vickerman is one guy that
is he going to command that respect from some of the Americans in the NBA sort of contingent there that maybe don't sort of know who Dean Vickerman is?
Good point. So then there's food for thought that you go overseas and get an international coach, right? It's like some other teams have done, right? Or you get a guy like Mike Kelly who's a players coach, someone who's going to be really good at building.
Hey, you're right though. A lot of teams have foreign coaches, don't they? It's quite a lot of teams do. So interesting. I think we'll probably wait for that. Scott Roth, would you be happy if he got it?
Yep.
And Gleeson as well. I think Gleeson's been an assistant. He's led the team at times. Some of those qualifying tournaments. He could definitely do a good job there. I think he's got that respect from people as well. So I think maybe one of those two.
Going from a franchise or a club coach to an international coach isn't always easy. It's a different ball game, right? So there's also that to think about. Yeah.
Fair enough. All right, we'll leave the Boomers chat there. So, of course, there were 3 other quarterfinals last night, Woods. They were all on the France The Germany-Greece game was a pretty good time. The other times are pretty ordinary. And I think all the other games now are going to be those middle-of-the-night ones, except for maybe the bronze medal game. That's going to be the only other viewer-friendly game. So I'll just quickly go through and then we can maybe talk about these one by one. So, well, actually, I'll start like this. So USA beat Brazil 122 to 87. So USA were up 27 at halftime. So this one was, effectively over early. USA had 6 guys in double figures, led by Booker with 18 and Ant with 17. Everyone played in this game, which is different than having the DMPs they've had during the tournament. A real even spread of minutes there. Nobody playing under 8 minutes in the game. So maybe we'll start with that one rather than go through each score. What were your thoughts on the USA, not only in that game but in the tournament so far?
Oh, yes, they've been great. I think they're playing together. Once that debacle happened at the World Cup, all of these guys said, look, that's enough. We need to come back to the Olympics and really bring our A game. And, along with the likes of LeBron, KD, these guys have stepped up. And
it's a perfect squad, isn't it? They just seem to have everything covered. They've got such good defensive bigs and everything like that. And even guys like Curry and other guys haven't really got going like you might expect. But, yeah, it's a quality team. And they're loving it too. They're having a lot of fun.
Bergert was saying this morning, it's so fortunate to have a guy like Kevin Durant. If things aren't going too right and you don't have many plays to draw up, just throw it to Kevin Durant. He's going to get you a bucket. How nice would it have been for us, our Boomers, to have a guy like Durant last night in the third and fourth quarter when things dried up offensively, right?
Is he now the all-time Olympic leading scorer? Did I read that?
Yeah, I think he's got to be close. He's been in a lot of Olympics, right?
Yeah, I think I might have seen that stat today. So interesting anyway. So, so USA go on to play Serbia now. So that's going to be an absolute cracker of a game. Look, Serbia, there's no doubt they'll give them a fight, but I just don't think anyone's getting close to the US. I'd probably predict that, US might win that one by, 10 to 15 points or something like that. And look, in the first quarterfinal last night, so one that a lot of people watched in the entree to the Boomers, Germany beat Greece 76-63, so 13-point win. Germany were down 10 at quarter time, so Greece really came out firing. Franz Wagner had 18, my boy DS 17, Dennis Schroeder had 13 and 8, and Giannis had 22 for Greece. So, what were your thoughts on that game there?
Really fun game. I actually watched both games last night.
Yeah.
Greece started really well, but you saw Nick Kalathis and Giannis really start to combine well together. But, 12, 15 points isn't a lot in FIBA basketball when you got experienced, players. And I think that Germany team said, look, don't stress. We're down early. Let's just get into our sets, go about things slowly, chip away at this lead, and we'll come up victorious at the end of the game because on paper we're stronger. And that's what happened.
How good was that big three that Dennis Schroeder hit as well from miles out? Franz Wagner Woods. Can you see
the one he banked in? You mean?
No, the one that he drilled it. He was far. So Franz, right? Future NBA All-Star, do you reckon?
Yep.
Chance? Yeah, he seems to have the complete package, doesn't he? I like the way him and his brother sort of go about it there, but he's got the complete offensive game. He can shoot. He's a big dude. He can got that spin move, getting to the basket, and that his D is pretty good. So
he's got good playmaking skills as well.
He does. I think he's probably one to watch out for this year. He's obviously got paid. That contract's probably going to end up looking pretty good there. But Germany's certainly the team I'm going to be going for. I did mention, my love of all things German last week. So really liking that team. We mentioned Bonga and Tyson. Those guys are playing well. So they'll be one to watch out for. So they'll be meeting France. I actually picked this one, Woods. So I don't know if I told you yesterday, but I made my predictions. So I had France beating Canada, which was maybe a surprise to some. So so France beat Canada 82-73. So Canada hadn't lost a game going into that. And this is similar to some of these other games. France just came out of the blocks. They were up 16 at half time. Strangely enough, Woods, their Twin Towers did nothing. You've got to say maybe Wemby's been a little bit disappointing compared to what you thought. Rudy Gobert's got a finger issue apparently at the moment, and he didn't play much. So they went a little bit smaller there. Guys like Yabusele really fired up there. But look, for Canada, only really 2 guys turned up. So SGA with 27, he turns up every game. And RJ Barrett, who I thought was really good in that tournament. So, he had 16 points. And they were the only players in double figures. So, bit of a shock for Canada to go out. They came in as a silver medalist in the World Cup. I think almost people were penciling in them, like, a Canada-US final, right? What went wrong for Canada, Woods? And where is Jamal Murray? What's happened to that guy?
Honestly, I didn't get to watch much of the game, man. I just rolled over in my bed, checked the box score. I'm like, what the hell? I'm very surprised about Jamal Murray not being in that starting lineup as well, right?
But his shooting's been horrendous. Like, is he just someone that has, good playoff games and he sort of he fizzles out sort of thing. Dylan Brooks was awful in that game as well. Very much a surprise there. I mean, France hadn't been great leading up to that game. I did watch the extended highlights today. That home crowd was amazing. They were making so much noise. And it just shows you, if guys like Wemby and Gobert, I think, maybe they had about 10 points between them. So it was, a couple of other guys that fired up. Evan Fournier was good. He sort of, stepped up and did that, FIBA Fournier there. So, look, France will go in with a lot of confidence playing against Germany there. So, let's give some predictions, right? So, as I mentioned, the first semi-final is going to be US against Serbia. What are your thoughts on that one?
Serbia's going to be competitive, but USA by, I'm going to say 20.
Okay, yeah, and I think I mentioned maybe 10 to 15. And what about France and Germany? Who's your pick for that one?
I'm going to go Germany.
Okay, yeah, I'll go Germany. I think this could be a close one.
A very, very good game. Germany's probably got a more well-rounded team that covers more bases than France, right?
Hey, imagine Germany had Isaiah Hartenstein in this team as well. I know he's a guy that they wanted guys in their warm-up games playing for him, and Hartenstein didn't play there, sort of thing. So, okay, so we've both got the US and Germany in the final. So, okay, who's getting the bronze medal? So, if our predictions are right, it'll be France against Serbia. So, France to win the bronze. Okay.
Yep. At home, you think the home crowd will take them over the line in that bronze medal game?
I'm going to say Serbia. I'm going to say the Joker, or as the commentator said last night on 9 Now, Jokic. He was awful, that commentator. I was trying to flick over to listen to Andrew Gaze and Speed, the other commentator, but there was just so many ads. So I flicked back onto 9 Now, and they were a little bit frustrating, those commentators.
Ebony Rainford Brent, MBE, who's a former English cricketer, women's cricketer, was doing the men's basketball last night.
What did I say? I said, I hope this doesn't sound racist, but I don't know about someone with an English accent commentating basketball. I know people was like, what's he talking about? It'd almost be the same if I was watching a game of AFL and there was like an American commentator. It just didn't quite sound right to me, but she was fine. She was actually better than the guy, and just, Jokic and some of the other sort of things that were coming out of his mouth. But look, I'll say Serbia for me will win that bronze. I think that the Joker will probably fire up, and you'll see guys like Bogey and those sort of guys firing up. So look, take us to the gold medal game. So we've both got USA and Germany. What's your thoughts on that game there?
USA to win. I mean, I can't see anyone beating USA. Germany will be competitive. I think it'll be more of around 10, 15 points versus Germany. 10
is the best case scenario, maybe 20 is the worst, or something like that. Yeah, and that, look, that might be one of the closest. I don't know what their closest win was in the pool play there. I'm just trying to sort of think now. I think everything's been 15. I know probably South Sudan, right? Yeah. So all right. So we've got USA going all the way. Probably not a big shock there. Looking forward to see some of these games. As I mentioned, the times won't be great there, but we'll certainly, try and see what we can of those games there. Let's talk a little bit just quickly about the Opals Wood. So as I mentioned, the quarterfinal is in less than 2 hours at the time we're recording this. So really looking forward to watch that tonight. So look, let's talk about their last pool game there. So they had to beat France basically to make it, and they finished with a really impressive win, I thought, in that game. So it was a rare situation where 3 of the teams in that Group B finished with a 2-1 record. So for me, this is one of the better the tournament. I was really proud to see the girls dig deep and get that W. I want to say maybe an apology, Woods. I'm someone that can be humble enough, sort of thing. I was a little bit critical of the Tess Madgen selection in this team. She was awesome in that game. So I'm always going to be someone to do this. I might have my opinions and be strong with it, but look, if I'm wrong with something, I'll come out and say it. So I'm not to say she'll be amazing today.
Not just Tess Madgen. Kayla George has been.
She has. Really, and she was probably the one big. You were on. I was on Test Match.
Really big.
There's a reason why we were just doing a show once a week and we're not, doing any important jobs in basketball, Woods. But yeah, you're right. Both those players have been really good. I think they got the rotation a little bit more settled. We saw the GOAT not play against France, which was interesting.
The NPCD, right?
Yeah, it was interesting. So, no, Kayla George hit some big shots there. In terms of what's gone well for the Opals, look, Alana Smith's definitely showed some signs. I think she's a real sort of future player there. And even like Steph Talbot hasn't had the best shooting tournament there. I just love what she does. I'm a big fan of Talbot there. Racking up the box score with the rebound.
This Army knife, man, just does a little bit of everything on the court. Yeah. Love Steph Talbot.
Big fan of her, and she was the villain in that game after accidentally getting one of the French players there. So, do we beat Serbia? As I mentioned, when people hear this or listen to this, watch this, the game would have been completed. Are we beating Serbia?
Listen. I've been following the Australians throughout this Olympic Games. Now the swimming's over. We're not very good at athletics or anything else. The boomers are out. What have we got to hope for? The Opals. That is our one hope here at winning a medal. So I'm going to get right behind them. We're going to take Serbia tonight. We're going to go to the gold medal game. That's my prediction.
We're going to go to the gold medal game. So you do realise who we play in the semi-final, Woods, if we win this game.
Oh, we're playing USA next, are we?
We're playing USA, who I don't know what sort of winning streak they're on, but it's ridiculous.
Okay.
Like they've not lost a game for a long time. So
yeah. Maybe not the gold medal game, but we're going to be
going for rose gold.
A medal game, right? Yeah,
100%. So so I'd be interested to see what happens with that one. There, looking forward to it. Go Opals. Hopefully we can come back, next week, and we've got some good news to talk about the Opals there. So, any more thoughts on the Olympics, Woods, before we sort of move on from this little part?
Look, after being so down, most of the basketball-loving community and public in Australia has been down for the last 24 hours. Yeah. Well, not long later, a day later, we had a chance to make up for it by getting behind our Opals. So the best thing that could happen today after yesterday's debacle is the women winning. 100%.
Go girls. Looking forward to it. So, all right. Well, I just thought we'd sort of have a couple of quick hits now, Wood. So there's a little bit of NBL news, and then I want to just finish off the show. I will say to the viewers, we're not going to do a classic packs this week. We're going to save that for next week. There's just a lot of Olympics content to talk about this week. So I thought we'd start off with some NBL, Woods. We did mention last week we'd talk about NBL this week, and there's been a few moves, I think, since we last spoke about the NBL. So I wanted you to talk through maybe a couple of the key signings that we've seen in the last couple of weeks or so. So they would be Jarrell Martin for the 36ers, the import Hurt for Southeast Melbourne, and possible rumours of Galloway returning to the Sydney Kings. So why don't you talk to us about those three things?
Maybe we'll start with J Martin. We know what Jarrell Martin brings to the table. He's an NBL champion. He spent years in this league. He's just a banker. He's got great fundamentals, a great locker room guy, a great teammate. Adelaide have done really well to get his services, right? So
is this going to be the season that Adelaide really fire up? Because on paper, they've got some pretty decent players on that team now, right?
Yep. I mean, Isaac Humphries re-upping was a really important thing. I mean, think of that front court with Jarrell Martin and Isaac Humphries starting, right?
Yeah.
That's a really, really strong front line. So I think they're gonna challenge for a playoff berth this year. And Adelaide doing some good things. And Coach Scotty Ninnis was terrific in the back half of last year. So having a full training camp with his squad and being able to build from there is going to be a huge plus.
It does feel like they've been down for a while, so it'd be nice to see them getting back up. And I think they'll certainly be a team to watch.
Agreed.
What about this guy Hurt for the Southeast Phoenix? What do you sort of know about him, and what sort of role are you expecting him to fill with the Phoenix?
All right, so Matthew Hurt played under Coach K at Duke. Is a good friend and a teammate of Jack White at Duke. So we know straight away people coming out of Coach K's system are going to come with a high level of character. So he brings that straight away. He's 6'9". He's a stretch 4'5". He played with the Memphis Grizzlies G League affiliate, the Hustle, shooting 50% from the field. He's averaging 20 odd points a game. So he's a big guy that can, stretch the floor, which are very important in today's NBL. I think Weiskamp is the other guy that they've got. So they've got some great shooting there. And you look at Southeast.
I'm hearing they want him to play a bit of the 5, right? Obviously, you mentioned he can play both positions. I'm expecting that they want a bit more, sort of maybe 5 rather than 4 for him.
You're probably looking at Derek Walton, Nathan Sobey, Weiskamp, Hurt, and Jordan Hunter as a starting 5, which is...
So all 5 players that weren't on the team last year. This is one of the biggest turnovers in terms of roster that we've seen in the NBL for quite a few years. So it's hard to know which way it'll go, right? But it'll certainly be fun. And we should mention as well, Woods, obviously next week we'll probably wrap up the Olympics and probably the NBL1 finals. And we can't wait to start doing these NBL previews. We're getting really close. I think the Blitz is about a month away right now, just over 30
I'm
days.
Thinking about depth charts and rotations and things, man. So pumped, bro.
It feels complete. I know how much we love those Friday nights when you get like a 7:30 game, and then you get the Wildcats home games at 9:30. I love my Friday nights.
Me too.
So looking forward to that. So, and maybe finally speak to about your boy Galloway. There's he got cut from Milwaukee last week. He was on the G League team. I don't think he actually played a minute for the Bucks there. There is rumours that he'll come back to the Kings. We know Kings do have one roster spot open and quite a big bank balance as well to boot. So what's your thoughts on that? You'd love to have him coming back, right?
Love to have him coming back. The only thing is the front office went and prepared for life without him and brought in a lot of pieces that could stifle his growth, right?
Yeah.
From a selfish perspective, I want him back on the Kings, right?
Yeah.
But what's best for him? Maybe going to the G League, maybe going to Europe or somewhere
Japan,
to get
maybe
Japan, whatever. Get some more eyes on you and really focus on that NBA dream. He's done what he can in the NBL. I think for his progression, I'd like to see him somewhere else.
And just finally on the NBL Woods, we saw the news today that Luke Travis has mutually agreed to depart Melbourne United there. So probably not a massive shock there. Look, I'd love to see him make that Cavs roster. There's still been no confirmation that's going to happen, but I think he's basically said, look, it's either going to be the Cavs/G League or he's going to go and chase some bucks in Europe there. So
sure.
What were your thoughts? They seem to lose a lot of good talent, don't they, United? So it's a shame for them when some of the guys they get are always on that fringe of going to the next level.
Well, I've noticed you just re-upped with Ian Clark, which is good to bring him back, great locker room guy. But just back to Luke Travis, it's a similar situation here to Galloway, right? Yeah. I don't want to see him back in the NBL, even if he's not on a 2A deal with Cleveland, go to Europe or wherever and make your stock rise somewhere.
Imagine they lose Jack White as well, and then it would literally be JLA, Luke Travis and Jack White that are all basically going on. It sounds like Jack White's going to be here, and I'm expecting a big year from him. But yeah, some big talent to lose there, right?
Jack White has got that NBA out clause from memory as well, right? So if he does something mid-season and he gets a call up from somewhere, maybe. So.
Yep. Nice. All right. Well, yeah, we'll certainly keep, I think a lot of the rosters are set now, aren't they? I know Wildcats are still looking for an import. As we said, Kings have still got that roster spot open. A few of the teams are pretty much finished there. Look, I wanted to finish off the show really with some NBL1 chat. We like to chat about this. Sure. So there's one of the competitions that's done now, and that's the NBL1 North. For some reason, they've sort of finished their competition a week before pretty much every other conference there. So I wanted to obviously give a big congratulations to Mackay and the men's competition. So they do a best-of-3 format, as I mentioned last week. So they had a 2-0 win over Brisbane in the men's competition. Toddy Blanchfield Woods, finals MVP, and they had 2 double-figure victories there. So they've got a loaded team. We mentioned some of the guys on the team last week there. So great to see Todd Blanchfield. I think Blanchfield's one of those guys that's maybe not quite good enough for NBL these days, but that next level down, he's an absolute superstar there. So thought that was pretty good to see them get the reward there. The women's grand final did go to the 3 games there, so quite interesting. So Rockhampton, they had a bit of a recovery from a game 1 loss there and ended up winning games 2 and 3 to be the champs there. So we've got Rockhampton and Mackay as the champs in the NBL1 North. Take it to my NBL1 East now. So as I predicted, my girl Loz Nicholson firing up and basically got the upset win. Basically against Albury last week. So Loz Sharks will be taking on Newcastle in the women's game. So Newcastle led by Isla Juffmans, Nicole Munga. So they've got some real talent on that team there. So both of those games are going to be played at Penrith this weekend, Wood. So really looking forward to watch that one. I think that's Saturday afternoon, mid-afternoon. I'll definitely be watching that.
You heading out to Penrith or...?
I've got a few family commitments. I would have liked to have gone. Obviously, living a bit closer to Penrith now in my new place, but no, I won't be able to make it out there. But I've been messaging Loz a little bit this week and let her know that I'll be supporting her this week. So I expect them to come out and get that win there. So Sutherland against Newcastle. In the men's competition, we'll see Canberra taking on Maitland, which is actually a rematch of the inaugural NBL1 East Grand Final from 2022. So how's this, Woods? This will be Maitland's 3rd straight Grand Final appearance, and they're 0 for 2 so far. So, geez, I'll be wanting to get a win this week. They've got a loaded team, led by Will Cranston-Lown, who's got to be close to getting a DP role on an NBL team. So, look, it's going to be an interesting one there. We saw Canberra knocking out the Sydney Comets, which was a big win there, given that how well Obi Shea and Bawali Bales has been playing. So Canberra's just one of those no-nonsense teams. They've got a lot of guys that have played together for a long time there. We saw Maitland having a pretty good win against the Young Guns from COE. So, look, my prediction in that one will be that Canberra do continue that trend for Maitland. So, sorry, Maitland fans listening, but I expect Canberra will probably win that one. So that's my predictions. Canberra to win the men's and Sutherland to win the women's. And lastly, Woods, just thought I'd talk a little bit about the NBL1 South. So they also have their grand final this weekend. So in the men's competition, Eltham will take on Ballarat. Check out the highlights if guys haven't seen this already that are listening to this. Angus Glover basically went ballistic for the Wildcats in their semi-final win versus Frankston. So the new Southeast recruit had 36 points and 10 rebounds, and he made 10 3-pointers, Woods.
I heard.
He was 10 of 18 for the game, and he pretty much hit the knockout 3 in the dying seconds of the game. So he was just amazing in that game. Really sort of encourage people to check out those highlights on YouTube.
Really promising from Mike Kelly and the coaching staff at Southeast Melbourne.
100%.
Going into training camp, knowing that Angus Glover is
in this
coming
sort of form, right?
Yeah.
100%, and looking healthy, which is always a big thing for him. So that'll be pretty exciting there. So Eltham are taking on Ballarat. Look, Eltham will be my pick to win it. I'd say maybe Glover will continue that form. And look, the women's grand final is going to be really interesting as well. So we'll see Waverley taking on Keilor. So both sides had really big semi-final wins. And interesting for Waverley Woods, they only finished 7th in the regular season. So they've been super impressive in the finals and kind of finding that form at the right time now. So as I mentioned, they'd be my prediction. So Waverley to win the women's and the Eltham Wildcats to win the men's. So also there are a couple of other grand finals as well in the NBL1 West and Central. So I'll give some further updates and we'll wrap up the NBL1 chat next week. So, yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about that. As we mentioned, no classic packs this week. We've gone the 48 minutes. We like to keep it around the length of a basketball game there, Woods. Yep. Let's take it to the outro, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, as I mentioned at the start of the show, please make sure you like, rate, and subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We can be followed on X. I know Woody's always good at posting the jerseys of the week and those sort of things. We'll get these ones out next week to showcase those ones. Instagram, we're throwback.hoops, and our email address is throwbackhoopspodcast@gmail.com. Why don't you mention Patreon for us there, Woods?
Yeah, thanks for everyone's ongoing support. If you jump on Patreon and just search for Throwback Hoops, you can pledge your support to us. Nice. We appreciate it.
Well, it has been a fun show. Like fun, even though it's been a bit of a post-mortem about what happened last night. Still mixed feelings, right? We got that 3-point lead in overtime, Woods, and I was starting to think, man, we're going to do this. What a big win this would be. And now we're a chance to get another medal, albeit it might have been a bronze one after coming against it. But look, it probably shows where we're at in terms of world basketball at the moment. As we mentioned, a 1-3 record for the Boomers. But I don't think it's all doom and gloom. I think there is some good signs on the team. Get some selections right with the next sort of up-and-coming squad we've got there. But I'll leave it to you. Give us some closing words, some words of wisdom or something like that. Woods, what do you got for us?
I'd like to thank all those guys who've been such great servants of Australian basketball. And if we never see them in the green and gold again, I'd like to say thank you to Matthew Dellavedova, Patrick Mills, Joe Ingles, and Nicholas Kay.
100%, yeah. No, we're not going to hate on Nick Kay because we didn't want him in the scene this time. But he had a great international career for the Boomers. He's been a really important player, back in these past Olympics. So, no, well said there, Woods. So, all right, well, on behalf of Woods and myself, the Throwback Hoops crew, can't wait to do it all again next week. Go Opals. Peace out.
Opals.